You are listening to The Fatboy Show on RX Radio. Happy February. It is the 7th day of February. We're 1 week into the new month and 1 week away from V-Day, Valentine's Day. Hope you're psyched for that. Hope you're excited about that. I think part of the reason why we harp on so much about Valentine's is because February is a pretty dead month, just generally. Like nothing happened. So Valentine therefore ends up just being the big day, because what else is there to look forward to in this month? Can you think of anything? At least with January, you're coming off of the euphoria of Christmas and a new year that is still lingering for a couple of weeks into the year. And then here in Uganda's case, we do have the Liberation holiday. And then, so there's at least things going on in January that make life interesting, right? That, and obviously you're trying to work on those goals you set for the new year. And so your mind is sort of active and excited for the months ahead. Whereas come February, all right, here we are. The New Year excitement has died down, has cooled off. We're no longer wishing each other Happy New Year now. Okay, what next? Nothing. Wait, Valentine's. Oh! So then we all kind of just converge in being obsessed about this rather insignificant day when you think about it. Because why must it be one day, a single day, for us to focus on whatever love we might feel for another person? Aren't you supposed to love someone every single day? Not to sound like, I'm just whipping out a cliche, but isn't that what you're supposed to do? You're supposed to love someone every day, 365 days of the year, not just one day Valentine's. And I'm sure even many ladies would agree. I mean, why wouldn't you, as my man, show me that you appreciate me and love me every day? In fact, you are being a cheapskate to reserve just one day in the year where you're going to pretend to give a damn about me, where you're going to wine me and dine me and maybe buy me some candy. Why can't you do that every other day? Why just Valentine's? So some ladies are going to start leading revolts over Valentine's. Boycott Valentine's. Valentine's should be every day. Oh my gosh, of course, all at the man's expense, right? It's a tough world out there, I tell you, but I am so glad you could join me here. We're here as usual to have a good time and talk about interesting stuff here on the Fatboy Show, as we normally do. I would now like to bring your attention to something I shared with my Facebook friends yesterday evening that I thought might be, well worth talking about on the show today. And it has to do with the issue of empathy. It's a big word, empathy. Now, if I were to ask you, what are your thoughts on empathy? You probably think of empathy as this powerful, positive force, to have empathy. And you hear people say that. Have empathy for others. Be empathetic. And of course, women like to claim the word, don't they? Oh, we are the gender with empathy. Men have no empathy, women have empathy. And so over the last few days, I've been trying to unpack the term. I kind of wanted to get a better understanding of it. Like, the word is thrown about so often that it's about time I try and figure out what it actually means. So I did some research on the definition of empathy. And according to researchers, and I'm going to quote the post that I put out there on Facebook. Let me just read the whole post. I said, people often confuse empathy with compassion. Emotion researchers generally define empathy as the ability to sense other people's emotions, coupled with the ability to imagine what someone else might be thinking or feeling. Having empathy is not directly related to whether or not one may act kindly towards another. Empathy just means that when you see another person suffering, you are able to instantly envision yourself going through that same experience and feel what they are going through. It doesn't mean you will necessarily do anything to alleviate their pain or that you will even feel bad for them. There is also nothing to stop you from adding to their pain either as an empathetic person. In fact, some of the cruelest people are deeply empathetic. Sadists, for example, have tremendous empathy for their victims. It is precisely because they know exactly how painful it must be for you that they enjoy causing you that misery in the first place. The word you are looking for to describe a kind-hearted person is compassionate. Compassion is the desire to take action to help the other person. Empathy is just a state of mind. It is merely your perceptiveness to the pain of others or feelings of others. It is morally neutral, and it doesn't necessarily mean you care about others. Sometimes it's the opposite. Compassion, on the other hand, is the actual virtue. It means not only are you aware that someone is suffering, but you also feel sorry for them. And most importantly, You actually want to help them and to relieve them of that suffering, and you are actively taking steps to do so. That's what a compassionate person is. Sitting around having empathy is not enough to make you a nice person. In the realm of romance and dating, women despise compassionate men, but they love empathetic men. They just want a man who they feel gets them, not one that cares for them. On the other hand, men are suspicious and distrusting of empathetic women because we know you will use our feelings against us. We much prefer compassionate women. We want a woman who performs acts of kindness towards us and others, i.e., shows that she cares. We don't need to feel like she gets us. In fact, most times we try our best to resist her attempts to figure us out. No matter how much compassion a man shows a woman, if in her head she feels you don't get her, all your act of kindness will instead breed resentment within her, whereas she will cross the ocean for a man who gets her, and even be willing to experience abuse and mistreatment from this man as long as she feels understood by him. Sounds twisted, doesn't it? But that's where all the confusion arises between the genders. To keep a woman, be more empathetic and less compassionate. To keep a man, be less empathetic but more compassionate. So ends my post. And, it got some people thinking, but for the most part, it seems like it flew over a lot of people's heads. And so I thought I'd take this opportunity to unpack it a little bit. So empathy versus compassion, which is the greater virtue? I feel like I've demonstrated that compassion is the greater virtue. To have empathy, like I mentioned in the post, just means, look, I can see that you are in pain. I can feel the pain you must be feeling. That's all it means. It's just a state of mind, as I said, a perception. But what it is you do after you have perceived another person's pain is really the measure of your virtue as a person, whether you are a good person or whether you are a bad person or maybe a not good person. A good person is the person that would identify someone's state of pain and then take steps to try to do something about it. You see, isn't that the better person rather than the person who can simply and merely acknowledge the pain you're feeling and yet do nothing to help? And in some cases might even try and make your situation worse, knowing exactly how much pain it's going to cause you. That is what sadists do, as I mentioned. A sadist can only function as a sadist because this is a deeply empathetic person. They're very perceptive. They know, for example, that they know what your traumas are. They know that you feel terrible about a loss you may have experienced in your life or a disappointment. They feel it. They know it hurts you because it would hurt them if it were to happen to them. And they know the feeling. They've felt it before and they're feeling it in you. However, because a sadist is a person with a twisted mind, they will derive pleasure from amplifying the pain that you are feeling because they want you to feel it even more. And then as they watch you squeal and just shrink in despair, for them it fills them with glee. They get turned on by it in some instances, and they just pack on even more pain and send it your way in order to give them greater levels of gratification. So yeah, you can be an empathetic person and yet be very horrible. What about politicians? You can't be a politician without being empathetic, because what is a good politician? A good politician is someone who the population will feel can understand their pain and their frustration. So if someone comes out and say, you're losing all the jobs, all your jobs are being taken by this group of people, you're going to be like, yeah, you, the workers, are downtrodden. You are unable to feed your kids. You go home after a long, hard day and you sit at the dinner table and then you just want to cry because you're being crushed by all your bills and expenses and your problems. And you're like, yes, thank you, exactly. So vote for me and I shall help you. And so, we all line up at the voting booth to vote for the guy that we think understands our pain and our frustration. Yeah, so to be a good politician, you gotta have empathy. Adolf Hitler had tremendous empathy for the German people. That's why they voted him in, and that's why they worshipped him as the supreme leader. And so that's what I want you to understand about empathy. It is just the ability for you to understand another person's pain and another person's feelings and frustrations. It is an ultimately neutral state of the mind in as far as any moral judgments might be attributed to it. It's neutral. It's not moral. It's not immoral. It's amoral. Compassion, on the other hand, is actually moral, because not only are you perceiving a person's pain, but you actually want to do something about it. So maybe it shouldn't be considered to be so cool for people to go around saying, oh, we have empathy, I have more empathy. Yeah, that just means you're more perceptive. And in the realm of relationships, and how I mentioned that for men, we are not so big on female empathy, not because we think it's inherently terrible, but we think it's potentially dangerous, right? How many times have men confided in their women about their own personal traumas in the past and their struggles, and then try to seek comfort by having a woman understand our pain and where we're coming from? And because women are empathetic, they will commiserate with us and they will show that they know how we are feeling about our frustrations. The problem is, too often what ends up happening is, when the time is right, they will use that information against us. You'll be having an argument about an unrelated matter, like maybe you forgot to take out the trash, or maybe you neglected to pick up something at the supermarket, and then she's disagreeing with you, and you're like, yeah, but honey, it's not a big deal. And then she'll just pull out that one of those trauma stories you shared with us. She'll say, yeah, you know what? You never listen. That's why your mom used to beat you every day and wanted to sell you off as a slave. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is my deepest, darkest secret that I told you in my moment of weakness. And then you bring it up now to make me feel... And then you see a guy just exploding in a fit of anger, and, it can lead to a violent situation. And that only happened because he shared that piece of information because he perceived her to be empathetic, which she is, because she knows that it will hurt you to no end for her to bring up the fact that somehow your mother's treatment of you was traumatic for you. She knows it, and that's why she uses it against you. So when we get into relationships and, our girlfriends, our new girlfriends are telling us, hey, but you don't open up, you don't tell me stuff, it's not because we don't like you. It's like, yo, we don't trust that the information we share with you will be used for the best of purposes. We don't trust that you're not going to one day use this information against us. So as men, we are very suspicious when women are trying to find out about us, because we kind of at the back of our minds suspect that you might just be digging for this information. You're just digging for some of our emotional weak spots in a bid to manipulate us. Not all men think like this, but enough of us do, especially those of us who have been burnt. What we rather like about a woman is her ability to be compassionate. So if you see a guy coming home from a hard day at work and he looks tired and he looks stressed, it's not enough for us to just have you acknowledge that we are feeling distressed about something in our lives. What we want is for you to say, hey, do you need a cup of coffee? Oh, can I rub your back? Oh, can I just give you space? Oh, hey, let me just go put the kids to bed and let me make them not disturb you and let you have your moment. Or, hey, let me gratify you sexually, or make you your favorite meal. These acts of service are really what men value the most in women. It is a woman's compassion towards us. Now, compassion, unfortunately, works in the reverse for women, right? Because we as men like it when women are compassionate towards us. In other words, when women are able to identify our problems and act in ways to solve those problems or address those problems for us, we think the same is true for women. So when we see a woman experiencing some distress in her life or expressing some frustrations about something going on in her life, we think, hey, I bet she would also like it if I were to try to intervene to help. And so as she's discussing all of her frustrations from work and everywhere, we think, let me give her advice. Yeah. Hey, maybe I noticed that you're always complaining about your work environment. Maybe you should quit. Or, maybe you should file a complaint. Maybe you should ask to be transferred. Maybe you need to take a holiday. So we just keep interjecting with all these practical ways to solve these problems. And shockingly, we find that she's generally not receptive to any of our suggestions. Not only will she absolutely not listen to what we're saying or act on the recommendations we're offering, typically they'll do the opposite, or they'll simply stay the course and just still keep complaining about the same things 5 years down the road. Or eventually they will start to have resentment towards you, right? Because here's what they're going to think. This guy just can't shut up, can he? I'm here telling him about the things that are wrong in my life, and all he's doing is not listening and just telling me what to do. So frustrating. What she instead wants is, guess what? empathy. All she wants is for you to show that you understand where she's coming from. So she is venting to you, not because she wants a solution. She's venting to you because for her, it's most important that she feels understood. Now, I'm not even going to try to ascribe any nefarious agenda here. I'm not even going to go out and say that, that therefore makes women a lesser being. It's just their nature. This is just how they are built. This is just how they are wired. So if you're thinking of being in a long-term relationship or a marriage with a woman, you need to understand that the way she processes her problems and talks about her problems, if she were to discuss them with you, she is mostly not looking for a solution. She just wants you to behave in a way that makes her believe that you understand where she's coming from. That's it. You can just hold her hand and just nod your head with her and say, yep, that's messed up. And she will appreciate that a hell of a lot more than you trying to solve all of her problems, which of course, in a way is unfortunate, because I'll tell you that as a man, and maybe I'll do a segment on this on another day, about how men tend to find that women who vent emasculate them unwittingly. That'll be a conversation for another day. But I guess the summarized version of it is, if you're complaining about all of the things that are wrong in your life to me every day, and I feel like I can't intervene to try to help you, I kind of don't feel worthy to be your man. While at the same time, if I'm just supposed to sit there and show empathy, I feel like you're turning me into a girlfriend. And unwittingly, you probably are turning me into a girlfriend. And that's obviously going to do a number on the attraction you're going to feel for me. And before you know it, you're going to turn your attention away to a man who approaches you with a fresh set of eyes, who you can feel more comfortable around, as compared to me, to whom you have shared so much of your personal life that you feel like you don't feel worthy anymore. Because in your head, you're thinking, he knows about all the shit I've dealt with and all the traumas I've suffered. There is absolutely no way he's looking at me and thinking I'm beautiful and I'm wonderful. He must think I am so horrible and so unworthy. And so when a woman is unable to feel beautiful around you, it also affects her level of attraction for you. But if she were to meet a new guy out there who is a bit interesting and she sort of feels like she can be her more true self without concern for being judged, she might shift her romantic attention in that direction and thereby compromise the relationship that she's in right now. Yeah. So I'm way past the point where, people say, oh, women, we can't just understand them. Women can't be understood. I think they can be understood. It's just that kind of like how we think of radio and how when you want to tune into different stations, you kind of just have to keep the dial to change the frequency. I think we need to change the frequency to always approach conversations with women from a strictly rational standpoint will leave you, the man, feeling frustrated most times. And the women also frustrated because she's trying to connect with you at an emotional level and you're just not picking the signal, okay? And then both of you feel frustrated. I think one of the more positive steps we can take towards solving our problems is to understand that we typically are approaching the conversation from different frequencies. And so we need to view ourselves as radio receivers and adjust our frequencies accordingly so that we can be more in tune with the other person. Listen to me sounding so serious and smart. And it's just a Wednesday. Can you believe it? It is to be expected. It is, after all, your number one station, RX Radio, and this is The Fatboy Show. Stick around. We still got plenty of great music coming your way.